Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Hope you had a great weekend. Okay, let's kick it off this week, staying on, the anti-corruption fight drive. Bless you, Barrister Chukwuemeka Eze. Bless you. Sorry about that. It can happen. Sneezes can happen.
It's the state of the nation.
Indeed. Thank you very much for coming. Well, that's my first guest, and the other one is Adetokunbo Mumuni, who is Executive Director of I hope you know who is who. Let me just do it again. The Chukwuemeka Eze, he's a lawyer, he's a financial analyst, he's a taxation expert. Thank you very, very much for coming on.
Thank you, Nigeria.
My pleasure. And Mr. Adetokunbo Mumuni, who is Executive Director of SERAP, which is, by the way, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. Thank you very much for coming on.
It's a pleasure being here.
Let me kick off with you, if I may, Emeka. The news end of last week that the anti-corruption drive has sort of, moved up a notch, maybe moved sideways. In any case, sustaining it, bank workers must now declare their assets. It seems pretty logical, since all the corruption allegations, the bank is right in the middle of them, one way or the other. But then again, this is not a new thing. It's not as if this was just devised, was it, Emeka? It hasn't just come. It's an old standing law that was observed mostly in its breach. Is that right?
You are right, because this is a law that has been in the statute book since 1986. Bank Employees, etc. Declaration of Assets Act. Currently is CAP B1 Laws of the Federation 2004. And it was made during Babangida's era as an act of the National Assembly. Currently it is an existing law pursuant to Section 315 subsection 1A of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. So what has become new is the political will. It had always been there. There are so many laws in our statute books that the governments are yet to implement. They implement it depending on issues or factors before them. So I think the government wants to carry out its duty as specified under Section 15 subsection 5, that it should do everything to prevent corruption. So, but I think it's going piecemeal. They might have seen something in the course of investigation of some of these politicians that many of them have bankers fronting for them as agents, as trustees, as nominees. And from A of that act prescribes, if you read it, you will see it has omnibus, so many provisions, including the assets you currently have, whether by way of land, whether by way of other assets, whether you have accounts abroad within Nigeria, whether you are holding them in trust for somebody or somebody is holding it in trust for you, whether your wife is holding it or you are holding it for your wife.
Or your children.
So, yes, and there is a punishment of 10 years if you make false declaration or you give partial information where you ought to give full information.
Now, you see, this law has been on our books since 1984. Since 1986.
Yes.
And as you heard, and we know, it hasn't come into discussion at all. Tokunbo, this hasn't, it's there. Now we're saying that the CBN has ordered banks, but the CBN itself is saying that this is something from the Code of Conduct Bureau. It's always been on our statute books. And I think it was the Code of Conduct Bureau, because as Emeka said, maybe they've seen something in the course of the investigation. It was the Code of Conduct Bureau, according to a report I read, that was reminding CBN that I hope you are not forgetful of the fact that this exists on our statutes, and the CBN did the needful.
Let me just say, like I've always said at different places, whether in private or in public discussion, the problem with Nigeria is never the paucity of legislations to regulate our affairs. Never. The problem has always been the issue of effective and even handed enforcement of those legislations. So, like my learned friend said, it's not a new law. But what we normally do in Nigeria is to enforce law uneventedly, capriciously, and whimsically.
Yeah.
For example, that a civil servant or a public servant must declare his asset or her asset has been with us for so long. So some people now think it's a new issue. You understand?
And they think this matter of declaring assets is only for elected officials or
Not
public
at all.
officials.
No.
But actually, it is a wide spectrum
no,
of...
for public officials, for declaration of assets generally. But because of this law, this 1986 legislation, it deliberately talks about bank workers and those, so that all fields will be covered. And you see, when legislations are to be made, most of the time they are meant to cure the defects in the system that was existing before the legislation are made, to cure some mischief which previous legislations didn't cover. When Babangida was bringing this legislation, there was a gap about declaration of assets. It used to apply only to public officials. Now, you wonder what the government, what should be the government business in asking private company workers, PLCs or private company workers, to now start declaring assets. You know, the banking system, if it is healthy, the Nigerian economy will be healthy. If it is sick or diseased, the Nigerian economy will have diseases. And that is exactly the mischief, the gap which that law was supposed to cover. So if that particular law had been concentrated on and enforced regularly and invariably, a lot of the mess, people using bankers, lawyers as fronts for illegal activities wouldn't have been so pervasive in our society.
It's interesting you mentioned that lawyers, because bankers, lawyers, even policemen,
tax officials,
all of these guys,
accountants,
you know, all of these guys, somehow they metaphorically slipped between the cracks, and nobody was hearing about from them. But interestingly, still on this subject of going beyond public officials, the banking sector is in the private sector, but what is not in the private sector that has also come to the fore is the Inspector General of Police, the new one, saying that every policeman must declare his asset as well.
Yes.
He said he has done his severally, and that there's no reason any officer serving should not declare his assets.
The public, let me say, the police officer is a public officer.
Exactly.
In any case, by definition, the police belongs to the public service of the Federation.
Exactly.
But for the banking sector, it is because of that mischief. Because if you look at the 5th schedule of the Constitution, the Code of Conduct Bureau is basically for the public officers and not for private sector. But this law takes care of the private sector, mentioning bank employees first and said etc.
Okay.
Meaning that any other private sector organization or any other body that does not fall within the public service of the Federation can come under it.
Exactly.
It will be applied mutatis mutandis, that is with the necessary changes being made to that organization. So no organization can purport that it is beyond receiving application from this law. And in any case, the law says that declaration has to be made within 14 days of taking a new employment. And the new employment was defined as whether you are seconded from another bank or from another organization. Even if you are seconded or transferred, it is deemed to be new employment, and you have to do it within 14 days. So this law had not been...
You know, interesting, because a bank worker is a bank worker. Yes. You might be the managing director, you might be a brand new accountant, just coming in fresh from the university.
Correct.
You are a bank worker.
You are right.
So as soon as you're employed from day one, it's part of the provisions of that
employment.
Sure,
but they have not been applying as we speak, despite the fact that the CBN gave this directive in July. As at August, 1 month after, as at August 12, only 3 banks
have complied
with it.
Why,
I mean,
Tokunbo, why do you think that is? I mean, why do you think that is? If it were something about their profits, their bottom line,
They will try.
that one, if they give them 14 days, they will probably finish it in 14 hours.
Exactly.
And just sort everything out in the next 14 hours. But this one, why do you think this dragging of the feet and only 3 banks? It's as what people say, it smells a bit.
Let me just say this. The only reason why rules will not be obeyed at any time will be if there are no deterrents for lawbreakers. If they, in the first place, not having done it already amounts to an offense. The directive of the CBN even notwithstanding, because they are in statute books. And you see, when you obtain banking license, you obtain a benefit. The burden attached to the banking license are your responsibilities under the law generally, and under the banks and other financial institutions decree. So you cannot take a benefit and jettison the burden.
The responsibilities
Exactly.
that accompany that benefit.
Exactly.
Let me take Tola calling in from Surulere on this matter. Good morning, Tola.
Morning. I just want to put an input into your discussion this morning.
Sure.
Yeah, the problem of Nigeria is about planning. You don't know how to plan. And at the same time, when there is a financial crisis or financial instability in any country or financial inevitable, it is only political solution can solve it. All this we are doing, the main cause of the problem of Nigeria is how they remove the so-called SSS out of the organization role, and it was caused by IBB. Like the CIA, they were all pulled into the organization all over. If any crack or any location or any loops want to anger, they will first move and report this into the federal government, and federal government will now box in. But now there's nothing of such of that security. That is our problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that whereas it would appear that Tola has nothing against enforcing this provision, he is saying that there was the Secret Service used to be involved in all of these organizations before, but now they've been pulled out. Even without prejudice to that statement, because he thinks that is the political solution that bedevils our efforts, if I understood him correctly, that bedevils our efforts to clean up the society.
I don't know how political solutions can be found to economics. That's the point he was making.
It wasn't too clear, but I wonder if he wasn't saying that the fact that we look for political solutions to some of these problems that can't be solved politically.
Probably that's what he wanted to say.
Maybe that's what he intended to say. Because he now said that this problem, he implied that this problem might not have been as big as this if, for instance, that particular device of having Secret Service within different systems. They used to be in the MPA, they are at the airport, they could be at the banks.
I sincerely wish to disagree with
Okay, sure.
On the basis that once the ruling power does not have political will to do anything, after the Secret Service would have sent their report, they will sit on the report. And that will be the end of it.
Exactly.
They say, I've sent my report to Oga, didn't do anything about it. They will become demoralized. Even to write future reports, they will become reluctant.
Maybe that's another political aspect that Tola was talking about.
Yes, the real problem, I told you that the difference now is political will. Not that these things are not in books.
And political will, because invariably, if they were to comply, the people most affected might be those in the political space. As
I speak with you, one of the most corrupt institutions in the private sector is the banking sector.
One moment, please. Reverend Dominic Alimosho, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chief. How are you today?
Reverend, good morning. Go ahead, please.
If what Barrister Chukwuemeka has said is as simple as that if you don't declare your assets or you lie by declaring the assets, either under-declare or over-declare, you change the prison. Why is it we have of the Senate President that over 1 year now we have been on that matter? It is clear he declared an asset, which doesn't have, in order to acquire way to buy it. It's clear cannot deny that. Why are we going from magistrate court to law court to tennis court to Supreme Court? I think the case have died. And what I'm trying to say is this. If this asset graduate declaration, is well enforced, we will solve almost 70% of political corruption. Because there's nowhere to hide. If you have 1 naira, and now you out of office, you have 200 naira, there's no way to hide. But we're playing fans on it. Please let me ask this one. But Mr. Chukwemeka, it seems also that this present political structure is lacking political will to fight corruption. Just 3 months ago, when Mr. President presented the budget to National Assembly, we had about funding from the budget office. Mr. President Buhari sacked almost the directors in budget office. I'm so surprised today that the same president that said that funding is no more crime. How could crime be defined in 2 ways in Nigeria, for the poor and for the rich? Now, young men will lost their office, directors in budget office, because of this funding. Today, this government is saying that funding is no more crime. And their speaker is saying nobody should try you because funding is no crime. How could it be crime in budget office and it's not crime in National Assembly? This is the headache Nigerians are having.
Okay, Reverend Dominic, thank you for calling in. I don't know, a number of issues he bunched together.
There's digression.
Yes.
I want
he digressed.
our listeners those observing us to appreciate that today is not the day of examining Buhari's government, his performance politically. We are looking at the encroachment of declaration of access to the private sector, beginning from the banks.
Yes.
We are not looking at it in terms of the public service that has to do with Senate President and all that. I think that has been discussed before today. Today is, many members of the public don't understand that why is it that banks that belong to the private sector, they have to declare it. Even some bankers, they don't know that such a law exists. And I think that's why one of the reasons why this program is on air. So that bankers who might be grumbling, they don't know, they've not seen it in any statute book. Why me? I've worked in this bank for 18 years. Nobody has told me to declare my asset. Why now?
But it shouldn't even be a problem, classically speaking. So even if you've not heard about it for the past 18 years, so far you've been doing the needful, the right thing. Even if they come in the 19th year, go ahead. But the problem, you should just go there and show your savings for the past 18, 19 years. But where you now have a number of super apartments in Dubai, etc., abroad, as you were enumerating different configurations, or you're holding something in trust, or somebody is holding something in trust for you, that could actually be a whopping great hole that was before our very eyes, but for some reason we didn't see it. Until the CCB, for some reason, well, not for some reason, you already suggested that it might be as a result of ongoing investigations in other areas that they find that, wait a minute, these banker guys, they need to help us with this investigation. And they won't talk to them directly. Speak to the CBN, the regulatory body. Tell your guys that they're not complying.
Exactly, because, like I said earlier, when you...
Okay, let me take Abdul Karim coming in from Adamawa. Good morning, Mr. Abdul Karim.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Ellen.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, over the scandal that is happening in this country is unfortunate to us. We didn't expect it from the leader of National Assembly and the rest of the group that they are backing all this stupid thing that is happening in issue of pardoning something, budget padding. We never had all this.
Mr. Abdul Karim, I wanted to beg of you, the budget padding saga is a separate issue perhaps than this one, which we're looking at extending the anti-corruption fight to the private sector now.
Through declaration of assets.
Through declaration of assets. That's the subject for discussion today.
I want to make a comment before getting all this. Look, issue of going for budget padding and all these things is where they are hiding behind, so that they will divert the mind of people. You will not think of declaring their assets. For my own personal view, let the President Muhammad Buhari come behind anti-corruption
So that, look, Nigerian Nigeria is not people that you go, it's like you are pampering them before you do something. Because we have strong headaches. That's our problem. We lack discipline in our society. Without that discipline, how the people that will come maybe 2019, they will feel that we have people that they will fight this corruption. That's the problem that we are facing. If they didn't tackle this problem before 2017, all what I know, they have failed us. Because fighting corruption from this year to 2017, we know they have worked for us. Fighting corruption will give us all what we want. Because less corruption, more work. That's what I believe. But all this, we need prayer for this country. So that...
Okay. Did you get exactly where... I don't know if he was in support or against.
I think definitely he was in support of fighting against corruption.
Yes.
And his own view, if we face that fully,
okay.
That's the point he was making.
Okay.
We will have achieved a lot. That's
Okay. Now I understand some things that I heard. That if for instance, don't have too many irons in the fire.
Yes. Face this one.
If that is the one that you can do, okay. Now I understand about 2017. And
19, yes.
then governance can become a lot more straightforward from there.
There is even a problem by Nigerians thinking that a government can devote its resources to fighting corruption. Because corruption should not be in the front burner. It should be a natural thing.
Ordinarily.
Apart
from the special aspect
law,
of the Nigerian situation.
The Money Laundering Prohibition Act of 2011 as amended, it's not meant for one government. It's for all governments that will come along our way. So all the laws, all the existing law and non-existing law, they are meant for the government to implement. And it is destructive. See what governments do in many climes. The government, because if you leave the executive to be determining who should be arrested and who should not be arrested, there is no way you will not have partiality. You give it to the CJN to appoint a public prosecutor.
Okay.
His office will look at all the applicable laws and be writing to institutions to do what they are supposed to do. The government will just run its program.
Okay.
The government cannot come and say,
you have an independent...
we are sitting down, we are fighting corruption. I mean, it doesn't work that way.
Mr. Babatunde calling in from Surulere. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
I appreciate your work, and I pray God in His infinite mercy will give you grace
Thank you very much.
to fight this cause to a very logical conclusion. And I greet the panel of speakers there, more especially Mr. Ese. I would like to compliment on your just immediate stipulate now that the office of the presidency should not be the one determining who to be probed, who to be investigated, and who to be prosecuted. There should be an office that is empowered to doing that. And again, I want to lend my voice on the possible anti-graft war on the bankers.
Mr. Babatunde, sorry,
yes,
sir. As you know, the president or the presidency has nothing to do with this particular initiative. As we read it, it's coming from the Code of Conduct Bureau to the central bank.
No, I know.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the bank's anti-graft war.
Okay.
I'm talking about the anti-graft war generally.
Yes, because
in as much I support the fight of corruption, but the fight of corruption must be fought according to the stipulate of the rule of law. And anything that is out of that will amount to corruption again. I want to support the presidency on this ground, on the bankers.
Okay.
Those people, they are the ones to drive our economy. There are a lot of money in their kitty that if
but sir,
all this money have been stored in a normal
Mr.
way.
Babatunde, why are you supporting the presidency instead of supporting the Code of Conduct Bureau?
Listen, it's the head, to be sincere. In as much that, though I've not been in support of the presidency of recent, but if the fight of corruption can truly be of an impartial agitation. You understand? It will be of a good thing to the generality of Nigerians. Okay. You understand? If the head does not have the will, the seal, the political will to say he wants to fight corruption, he will not fight corruption. Please, enjoy me. Please permit me to say one thing. Look at the former regime of JED. Listen, that regime tailored the government according to the spirit of democracy and the rule of law. That is why you not see a lot of us perceive the government to be weak in fighting corruption. Corruption cannot be directly fought by the presidency. There are agencies. You have the National Assembly there. There are various committees that have to oversee all these MPs. So it is their duty to investigate them, and when they find anything criminal, they alert the constituted authorities like anti-graft, like EFCC, ICPC, SFU, and co. They allow them to investigate.
All right, Mr. Babatunde, thank you very much for calling. Still, I'm a bit confused. It seems that we have this attitude of going to the very, very top on anything because they say no matter how remotely the significance, it is the top that is really direct. Because Mr. Babatunde, for example, and I think the person before him, wants to bring the presidency into this, whereas the CCB, I imagine, is doing really what Emeka was suggesting, that look, let there be a special office that knows what to do. And in this case, at least, the CCB has done it.
Let me just tell you, Mr. Eze's position is what ought to be, which is not the law in Nigeria now. I was talking about the office of an independent investigator to be appointed by the CJ of Nigeria. No.
For example,
just
making a suggestion.
Yes, we have the EFCC already here.
Yes.
We have the Code of Conduct Bureau here. We have the ICPC here. My own position is that they are bodies already existing by law to do some of these things. So, you see, the problem is always when they hear or see something in the public domain, they don't act immediately. And that is what will lead people to say, probably it was the president that was directing them. That should not be it. Okay. For example, we had a lot of things that have appeared corrupt. They said they were not doing it until it started repetition all over the media. That should not be. And it is when they delay that people now start talking about presidential interference. That is not the business of the president.
Okay.
It's not like that in every other place.
I know Emeka probably has, Chukwuemeka has something to... Okay, welcome back, and thank you for joining us if you've just arrived. Barrister Chukwuemeka Eze, coming from before the break, I wonder why people seem to be going back to the presidency when this is almost like a private affair. It's between the Code of Conduct Bureau and, in this case, the CBN and then the bankers directly. But somehow the presidency has come into this. And I'm reminded that when Ribadu was in the EFCC, he had occasion to clarify or say to us that President Obasanjo has never for one day, not 1 second, told him who he wants me to go after, that's not the kind of way it works. So, but now you see viewers, you hear viewers saying that, look, why do you think they're going back to the presidency?
Because that's the source of the directive.
That's the source of the directive, you think?
Yes, that political will in an administration.
So you won't even give the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau credit
let me tell you,
for going about his job properly?
We need to look at our law.
Okay.
Under the Bank Employees Etc. Declaration of Assets Act, there is no provision that gives any responsibility to the Code of Conduct Bureau. They wrote as a sister government agency organization. Now, let me tell you, if you read the 5th schedule, you will continue to see that the role of the CCB has to do with public officers, not private. So writing doesn't mean that they have a direct role to play. As far as I'm concerned, they don't have a direct role to play. If they had, they would have given the instruction directly.
Okay.
They're reminded. So it's persuasive. So let's leave CCB out of this. But the thing is that even if CCB wrote, why didn't they write last year? Why did they not write 5 years ago? CCB, have we just instituted CCB? It had always been there. So there is the political will for CBN to do what they are doing has just come. And it has come from where? From Mr. President. Rightly or wrongly.
Even though the CBN is the regulator of the banking sector.
Yes.
So you don't think that that's enough?
The CBN have been regulating them over these years.
But you know,
I have not reminded them.
But we said it's not business as usual in this administration.
Yes, now because this is a government that is fighting corruption. It's one of its cardinal points.
So your guess is that it might not have been from the CBN.
In a presidential system, when you draw the graph, every government policy must have the imprimatur of the presidency, except if it is not an executive action.
I see that you are disagreeing, Tokunbo.
Yes.
But hold the point of disagreement. Action. Let me include Mayowa, who is calling in from Mowe, but hold the point of disagreement. I'd like to hear it. Good morning, Mayowa.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Please go ahead. We're waiting for you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayowa. We can hear you. Please go ahead now.
All right, thank you, sir. In as much I want to appreciate the CCB or whatever, the agency in charge of this, in as much I would like to appreciate the body in charge of this new development about bankers' declaration of the assets. I still want us to still consider from the top, the federal government. The government is a big issue. Until we solve the problem from the top, all these, just imagine a father that is not that did not put the house in order, or imagine a father that has this bad character and is trying to control the housemaid. Or trying to correct the housemaid. No, don't you think it's misplacement of priority? I feel that government itself, talking about from the federal government, should do something about corruption from the top. Let me tell you, there's tourism pursuing all these people. Things will fall in place if federal government, if from the top everything is in order, then things will automatically fall in place. It doesn't really forget about all this. Let's look at all this CCB, whatever they are doing. If the federal government is serious about fighting corruption, and if the proper apparatus are put in place by the federal government, I'm very sure and I'm convinced that we won't be pursuing all these people before they do the right thing.
All right, then. Thank you very much. I've got to thank you very much for calling in. I don't know if this government is serious about fighting corruption, then a lot of these problems wouldn't even exist. I mean, isn't this part of showing seriousness? But let me go to the point of disagreement that you had with Chukwemeka, who says that it's really from the top. And
I agree that the first issue is when there is a leader and you analyze the way he sets out to rule, you may take a cue from that. That is the positive side of what I see.
That is what I was thinking. But Emeka's
argument I will get back to the argument. No.
Were they not that same place 5 years ago?
No, Buhari was not here five years ago.
No. I mean the CCB, for example.
No. Because what was happening 5 years ago was, let's do it the way they've been doing it in the past.
Yes. And
that's my opinion.
And Buhari came along saying that it's not going to be business as usual.
Exactly. So when we say there is independent ICPC, you understand? When we say there is EFCC already established by law, it was not Buhari that established both organs. It was not Buhari that established CCB. It was not Buhari that established CBN. Why can't we enforce our law as they have always been? And that's what I say. But we'll now presume every time.
Well, Emeka has provided that answer ages ago. Political will.
Yes.
Where is the political will to do the needful?
Now, the political will to do the needful is coming from the president. But the direction, that something must be done when matters arises, it should not come from the president. And I don't believe it's coming from the president. It is simply that those who are now in charge of CBN, ICPC, EFCC are now more alive to their responsibilities because they know that the man at the end of affair will not tolerate nonsense.
In other words, quite frankly, brutally, they have stopped slacking.
Yes.
Mr. Folorunso Ikorodu, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Okuyori.
Thank you for calling in.
How are you, sir?
Thank you for calling in.
Before I go forward, I've not been seeing Arua Joyi. Everything is okay with him. Hello?
Arua Joyi.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Dapo Arua Joyi, he's fine.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. All right, sir. So I want to make my contribution towards this anti-graft war. I think it's a very good thing to extend it to the bankers. Because there's no corruption that succeeded without having a banking
Aspect.
contribution.
Yes.
It.
After all, you're not going to keep the money under your pillow.
Yes.
Yes.
And once they have now the influence that this percentage will be for you, instead of them to make them not do the wrong thing, they will be happy to do that thing for them. So let it go to that. But before then, I don't know. I'm surprised to what is happening at the top at the end of the day. If this National Assembly and House of Representatives will not for the Buhari's integrity, because there are lots of things that we just hear from people that this thing is happening, and the contribution of APC as a body, they are not contributing well to me. But if you have to fight anti-corruption war, it has to start from them. And let us see the outcome of all these alleged people that have been alleged of doing bad things. If our speakers have been saying pardon is not a problem, that nobody can head it for anything, I don't think it's the right thing to be in this country and at this right time of fighting corruption. Please, I think the presidency, if it has anything to do with it, they should call people to the right order so that they can do the right thing to please people. But I still in support of the government that we should not make us to turn back.
All right. Okay then. Okay. Thank you. Now I don't know. I wanted to take
I want us to take some technical areas.
Okay.
For the public.
I'll try and remember what I wanted to bring in, but please go ahead.
Let's look at something. The members of the public should know that bankers have to fill this form at the anniversary of filling the previous form.
Yes.
That is, it's an annual thing. Whereas for public servants, it's every 4 years. But for
bankers,
those in the private sector, it's every year.
And it's not just bankers, because as you said, EPC,
yes, not just
EPC.
bankers, yes, every year. And I think it's high time the government should ensure that all critical sectors of the economy, they come into this scheme. Because so that we don't keep running what I call a Ponzi scheme in this country. Because many politicians, they have their money held by bankers, by people in other spheres. Because if it is held by lawyers, the Money Laundering Prohibition Act can take care of that. If it is held by estate agents, that's the whole essence of the Money Laundering Prohibition or Terrorist Act. So, but if it has to do with some of these critical sectors of the economy, we need this asset because once you have filed it, it's like an affidavit. Once you have filed it, you have nailed yourself. If you told a lie,
you've
nailed yourself. And if you nail yourself, you will no longer have any person to blame.
Okay, Mohammed is calling in from Ghana. Good morning, Mr. Mohammed.
Good morning, sir. Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in, sir.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. First of all, I want to salute your courage and your gentlemen the panel of gentlemen that you are having this morning. You see, concerning this anti-graft issue, there is need to look at it from the other side too. You see, the president has shown it. Everybody sincerely will realize that President Muhammadu Buhari come out campaign on the altar of the fact that Nigeria must fight corruption or kill corruption. Otherwise, the corruption will kill Nigeria. That is his stand. So look at it from this perspective that the Senate, the reps, are not in support. And everything that is affecting them, they run to the gentleman, the president. Last week or so,
the Senate President Bukola Saraki was quoted to have been congratulating the EFCC. Meanwhile, according to sources, there is this letter of the presidency to the effect of affirming or confirming the chairmanship of the EFCC, which Bukola Saraki did not work on. You can see that they are the people that are causing problems. If they work it, if they do it in teamwork, if they all collaborated, why is it that up to today, Senate President has not defended himself objectively of all the allegations that he has been accused of?
Okay, but Mr. Mohammed, I just wanted, I wonder if I could prevail on you to comment on this aspect of bankers now being reminded that annually they have to declare their assets, and this hasn't happened in anyone's memory. And we are also told that only 3 out of the 19 banks in existence in Nigeria have actually complied. Okay, we lost you. So, I know that corruption is a hydra-headed thing, as they say, but so it keeps on going to some of these areas. But we wanted to sort of see if we could sort of streamline the discussion into bankers' declarations of assets. And by the way, it's an annual thing. So the guy who is year 1 in the bank and the guy who is year 22 in the bank, you know, that same guy, his asset declaration should have been different, although it's not 20. Is it 20 years old yet? The legislation, Emeka was telling us it's
20 years.
It's over 20 years.
So 20 years. So if 30 years old.
So if a guy has spent 20 years in the bank, then theoretically there should be 20 asset declaration forms.
30 now.
Yes.
30.
Yes. Now, the other question I wanted to ask, and I think it's related, is, by the way, what are the possible infringements, the possible ways in which a banker might be corrupt? Because you don't look at bankers as corrupt. You look at politicians as possibly corrupt. You look at lawyers as possibly corrupt. But bankers, they have a very unique position of trust. They take your money and lock it up for you. And when you come back and ask for it, they hand it to you. Where's the room for corruption? For example, being theoretical.
No.
Lawyers are not corrupt too.
No.
Lawyers are not corrupt.
Let me just tell you this.
No, what kind of corruption, apart from opening the safe and stuffing a few bills in your pocket, and I'm being unduly simplistic.
No.
What room for corruption is there in the banking sector?
Do you know that in criminal law, you could be accessory before the fact of a crime? You may be a participant in a crime. You may also be an accessory after the fact of a crime. Somebody who stole money, which you know was stolen, and you received it from that person, or you have a reason to believe that it was stolen, and you receive it from that person and keeps it for him, you are as liable as the principal offender.
When you say keep it for him, are you talking about in his own name or in the banker's name?
No, in his own name.
The banker's name.
That is the essence of the money laundering thing that we are talking about.
Okay.
If you
shifting money all over the place.
Yes, if you have a feeling.
Trying to confuse the authorities as to his trail.
If you have a feeling that it was stolen, or you have a feeling that it's likely to be stolen, the money that or asset that you are keeping.
So bribery doesn't come into it, because I was looking at when a guy wants a facility, is that what they call it, a loan, they get a cut out of it. I was just looking.
It will still be part of corruption. Bribery is also corruption. So the person who actually gives and the person who actually receives are committing the same offense in essence.
So it's because they had seen that there was plenty of scope for corruption within the banking sector. God forbid that they should follow that direction. That's why, just to make assurance doubly sure, that particular 1986 legislation exists.
And the other point I want to make is that it is not enough to have these asset creation forms filled. And that was the problem that we had earlier with the CCB. You are supposed to randomly pick and investigate this declaration, and that will be the real work.
Well, okay, because you can't just.
Because public officers have been filling asset creation forms all this while.
Yeah.
And some of them even do anticipatory declaration.
So they say.
Yes.
So they say.
So it is not enough that the forms are there, it must be investigated.
Okay, Mr. Adeshola calling in from Ikoyi. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thank you. And this is my first time of contributing to this kind of.
We're glad to have you. We're glad to have you.
Exactly. You know, the problem of the corruption in Nigeria, I think, is the one that the corruption is the one that's killing Nigeria as a whole. Because to start with first, it's not only the bankers that are corrupt. You understand? Almost every individual of this Nigeria, and to get out of it, you can imagine. If a president is fighting corruption and people are still kicking against that he's selected, so definitely we have a very long way to go. It's not only banker issue; it's across the board. If it's not somebody from ministry, it's from somebody from even high court, all these things. It's so rampant. I think the only solution to the problem of Nigeria, the way I'm seeing it, I don't want them to think I'm militaristic or so. Our problem is need to do with tribal. Are you getting what I'm saying? Because if somebody from Ibadan now morning, if somebody from Sokoto will say, it's a Yoruba man. If somebody from Igbo, so morning, no, it's not it's our own living. You can imagine when Igbo is having case of this saving. These people who are supporting him, they are solely behind him. That is our, after all, it's not the that money that they are solely.
Yes.
I think the media should help Nigerians. Anytime economic issues are picked, almost 70% of our people we drive it to the political end. So we find it difficult to discuss economic issues qua economic.
Yes,
so
yes.
We drive it to religion.
So you think this conversation is being politicized?
And keeping other things constant. I mean, it's high time the media should help the country, maybe by discussing more economic issues because.
Okay. Because I think about two callers have already said it's not the banking sector alone. So when you look at a statement like that, nobody said it was the banking sector alone. But at least we've got there, and what we're saying is commentary on that. Mr. George Ikeja, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
This initiative is a right step in the right direction. What I would suggest, rather, is that this probing should start from the central bank itself. Uncle Yori, as someone that knows the system, I can tell you that corruption cannot thrive in commercial banks if there is no connivance from central bank.
How is that?
Yes, it is what the central bank wants to see in the banking system that happens. The auto checks and the auditing system, the digital auditing system of the CBN, if it is applied to the banks strictly, they cannot launder money. After all the money that has been alleged to have been taken by Dasuki and Oko, where did it go through? Is it not central bank? Is it not somebody at central bank that opened the vote for him? How did it happen? Where are the records? It is the same way it happens in commercial banks. It is with the connivance of the central bank officials that commercial banks can do what they are doing. So this idea of saying that you should declare assets, yes, it's good to do it, but let us start it from the right point.
Okay.
Sorry. Yori, on declaration of assets, I think it should not be done secretly. If we want to sanitize our public service system, let the declaration of assets be made public.
No, I think by definition, I would have thought, Mr. George, that by definition, those asset declaration forms are available to the public.
No, they are not. How many of the ones that were secretly declared do we know about? We know of that of the president. We know of that of the vice president. Which minister is his own known? which governor is unknown by the public.
Maybe it's because nobody has asked yet.
They do. Uncle Yori, many pressmen do make inquiries.
You're right.
And they are not encouraged to get the information. It's not easy to get it at all.
Okay.
Let the declaration be made public, and let everybody know. So if you are simply rich, you know that people will frown at you. You won't contest for a public office.
Yeah.
That's my view.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Mr. George.
Yeah, I will say something in that direction. As for CBN, they are covered under the CCB. So that's why the deposit money banks, they are covered under this act. So, but be it as it may, the last contributors got it right. The bastion of corruption in the banking industry is the CBN. They
are the regulator.
But they regulate their pockets first before they regulate others.
Oh dear.
If the government wants real sanitation, financial sanitation, they have to start it from the CBN. Yes, most times things are. It's just like.
But I would have thought that as public officers, all CBN officials, they're already in the catchment of this matter. They must declare.
The thing is that they're receiving nobody there to look at these papers. Have you gone to an office where you want to get a particular document and an officer says, I'm the only one here, 5,000 documents, so how do you want me to come and start looking for it? Please go, come back in 3 weeks' time. You come back 3 weeks' time, it's on leave. Come back 2 months' time.
Oh dear.
So the public service is not really functional in this country.
Okay, the last word now, because I don't know how we run out of time, but we have.
Let me just say,
very, very, very interesting where this conversation landed. That the central bank itself, the regulator, start your investigation from there.
As for the last word,
yes,
I agree that should be the starting point. The reason is this: the CBN, under the bank and other financial institutions decree, has the sole responsibility to monitor banks, to see that whatever they do negatively against the system is checked immediately. And that is why it is possible for the banks to do just anything. It's because CBN is not doing its work.
All right then. Well, thank you very much. It's good. Hope CBN is listening. Yes. Hope the banks are listening. Certainly, we know that our loyal viewers are. We'll keep an eye on this and see how it develops. But many people didn't even know that it was supposed to be the most natural thing in this world. If only, as Eze had said, the political will to do the right thing had existed. But let's leave it there for now. Thank you very, very much, Chukwuemeka, as a lawyer and financial analyst.
Thank you.
They didn't put it here, but I can also put taxation expert myself. Adetokunbo Mumuni, Executive Director of our Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on.
Pleasure coming in.
Oh, bless you again. We started with that and we're ending with that. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing, with a fresh edition of the program. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.